Sacred science is a revelation of God through science.
There's also a case study in your book about the student who did the hawk.
He used CRISPR. CRISPR is a genetic slicing tube, and he thought he was turning off one gene, and what happened, he did turn off that gene, and then the fish developed a full frog leg in its fin. So the fish are swimming around with the gene for the frog leg in their genome. And it was really a wonderful development, international news.
As we look at this, it's not just that the DNA sequencing is just for humans. It's for every created thing.
It's the story of life.
It is the story of life. And we're here today because we find this fascinating. It's in your sweet spot. It's your career. You've studied cancer and sciences in depth. My PhD is actually in ancient history and ancient medicine. You know, we were talking, we both spent some time at the Hopkins, and for me, I remember I came across this group of physicians, the first 3 centuries. They were Christians, and in Greek it's anagiroi, which means without silver. They didn't charge for their services. But what was happening in those years was that people would still praise, they praised the doctors, but when the doctors didn't have the answers, then they went to the gods, whether it was Asclepius or whether it was Yahweh.
Mm-hmm.
And so in your book, you make it clear this is not about the God of the gaps.
No.
Not at all. And I found it refreshing from the start. I think that was like on page 100 when I read that quote. Maybe we could close on that, just to revisit that. This is not like ancient history when you can't explain it with the science or the doctors.
Mm-hmm.
The anagiroi don't have the answers. It's not just where you don't have the scientific answers, because that's become scientism. And you speak hard against that.
I do.
And you want to close on that. It's not the God of the gaps and where it is for you.
Well, I'll close on a negative note of scientism, a quote that I'll try to accurately rephrase. I believe in the concept of a God, but I insist upon one thing, that God be subject to the testing of experimental science. I could hardly believe that sentence from a certainly well-educated person. And he's basically saying, show me a sign. And that's been repeated throughout history. God, show me a sign. My answer to that is God has shown you so many signs, we can't even count them. Look at the stars at night, look within the human body, look within the genome. We have more signs. I think that's the reason I titled this book, Sacred Science. Scripture is a revelation of God. We have a second revelation of God, and it's the revelation of God from science. You can only look at these things for so long until you go, who planned that? Who did that? Where did that come from? And you realize we also see God in the unveiling in the story of science. And we're now at a point in time where we don't worry as much about gaps, I'm not attributing God to thunder to God. We know and we understand an awful lot of science today, and there's an element in the culture of science which is don't give God a foot in the door. And that's not mean or evil. They're just trying to say, let's don't stop short, let's keep looking. And I get that. But I think it's time we could also say science, properly understood, is a revelation of a creator. It's the revelation of a superintelligence. And I can't find any other conclusion as I look chapter by chapter and concept by concept. It was planned.
Wow, what a way to end. I mean, science itself comes from, the word to cut apart. And your book has helped us cut a lot of things apart and look inside.
Yes.
In each chapter you end with, isn't God great? I mean, God says, this couldn't just have been accidental. And you make that point all the way through. So for those listening, no matter where they are on the on the view of evolution and what your terminology is, your nomenclature, one of the things you do is you say, did that just accidentally happen? No.
Yeah.
Did that accidentally happen? No. And I find that throughout there. And then also your humor in the book, or your indirect humor, if you will. And you're not vitriolic at all. You're not trying to take someone on. You've credited Darwin here today and so forth. You know, there's a lot going on in England. I was in England recently with Justin Brearley, and your book starts out talking about new atheism. And you know, the new atheism, they were getting, they had a little moxie, you know, a decade or more ago, and they took out an ad on the London buses that said, "There may not be a God, but don't worry, enjoy life anyway." And so they were really confident that that was. And then the great debater William Lane Craig was coming to town, and Justin Brearley couldn't get Dawkins to debate him. And so they took out a sign finally in the buses that says, "There may not be a Dawkins, but don't worry, there'll be a debate anyway." And so they have fun with it, and they want to discuss it. And Dawkins is obviously a brilliant fellow. No, I don't agree with most of his findings, but that's his prerogative to have those. He just needs to be able to debate those or to do this. I like you have the Aquinas' virtue of intellectual humility. You approach each chapter with the assumption that you can learn something from somebody else. And you take that and then you build on it and say, oh, but here's what we have found. And you build on that. And I think that's very helpful. Well, thank you. And I think this really helps us appreciate the God of the universe.
Thank you for reading Sacred Science.
During the Super Bowl.
Well, I will admit this year's Super Bowl was a little dull.
A little easier to read, yeah. The highlight was that ad on He Gets Us, I think. But
thank you for your review of Sacred Science. Thank you for your time here today. And what a joy. I appreciate it so much.
it has been an honor. Thank you.
Thank you.